What's going on, Notre Dame fans? I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel. We are outside Notre Dame Stadium, Fighting Irish, just over there at the Irish Athletic Center. Practice for the 13th time during fall camp today. Fall camp coming quickly to a close here. So some quarterback information is likely on the way. We don't have a lot for you guys on that front today based on what we saw in the 20 to 30 minutes that we were out there for practice. But Jack, you did kind of focus in on the offensive line because there's been some storylines there to definitely pay attention to. What did you see from those guys?
Yeah, we did not learn much about the quarterback situation. We did learn that the NCAA is a complete joke, but we also learned a little bit about the right guard competition between Guerby Lambert and Sullivan Absher. We saw a little bit of both kind of in a first-team role. So the first individual drill the offensive line did was kind of like a combo block drill where the two guys lined up against a dummy defensive lineman, worked on, double teaming and then moving to the second level. You guys have all seen it. Guerby Lambert lined up next to Ashton Craig, obviously the starting center, for the first rep that we saw. So I see that and be like, oh, Guerby Lambert is in line to start. Then we see him line up 5 across in kind of like a walk through inside run drill, and Sullivan Absher is between Ashton Craig and Emil Wagner. So we saw both kind of getting a little first team work at practice today, and it looks like that competition is very much alive.
Yeah, that's the thing to hit on there, is that those two guys are battling just over 2 weeks before this season opener. And at one point I thought Sullivan Absher was probably 80 to 90% for sure going to start at Miami. Maybe we're closer to 50-50 there with Guerby Lambert, a potential starter for that season opener. Before Jack was keyed in on the offensive line, we actually got to see some 11 on 11, probably 6-8 plays somewhere in there
with the threes, to be clear.
With the threes, and maybe some of the fours. It was depth guys, for sure. Tyler Buckner at quarterback, if that tells you anything. You were watching the offense today, so give me some offensive tidbits from that, and then I'll tell you guys about the defense.
Yeah, Tyler Buckner was up and down. I would say he had a Scrap Richardson open kind of in the hole on a corner route in a cover 3 defense between the deep corner and the underneath nickelback. Sailed the throw, unfortunately, so didn't get to see that completion. He had a couple throwaways, and then he had a nice check down to Jerome Bettis Jr. For a gain of probably about 10-15 yards.
Yeah.
We saw a swing pass to Jake Tefelsky that went for a decent gain. Tefelsky, the walk-on running back, transferred from Central Michigan last year. What Tefelsky being in there does tell you is that maybe a couple running backs in the mix to run with the twos. Jabron Payne, Nolan James, we did not see either of them with the threes. We did see Aeneas Williams. He kind of had like a big. You remember what Jaden Osbury wore down the stretch last season, the big elbow brace. He kind of had that. So I would assume he's going to be fine. He dressed in full pads, looked like he practiced, so I assume he's going to be fine. But notable there. So looks like all five healthy running backs are kind of maybe not in the mix, but getting reps with the second team.
Defensively, not a whole lot to take away there. Jack kind of told you how those plays went, but I was pretty impressed with Madden Faramo's just positioning, if you will. Like, he pursued the ball pretty quickly and smartly. 3 different areas, really. He was out there to the sideline on one of those catch and run type of plays, and he got out there pretty quickly, shoved the guy out of bounds. There was an inside rushing play where he got to the ball carrier pretty quickly. Probably limits the gain there if it's an actual tackle to the ground type of situation. And then he got up in Buckner's face eventually and forced a throwaway on one play too. So the thing with Madden Faramo, why this is not a 5-man linebacker rotation like it was last year, is the assignment stuff. He needs to get all of that down. Before Max Bola told us, if you don't have everything down, you're not going to play, because these 4 guys that we do have, they do have everything down, and they're not going to make a lot of those mental errors and those missed assignments. So he's getting there. Again, playing against some 3s, playing against some 4s on the offense. So I hope he looks good. But I was pretty impressed just the way he carried himself out there. Also, Christopher Burgess, large human, and they actually dropped him back into coverage on one of those passing plays. So I thought that spoke to the versatility that Chris Ash is asking for from these defensive ends, where it's a left-right thing now. You're not a Viper. You're not a strong side defensive end. We're going to ask you to do a whole lot. If you want the, I don't know, what is he, 300 pounds, 280 pounds?
Burgess?
Yeah.
A little less than that at this point, but he probably
big guy. He looks big out
at
there.
some point. Yep.
And they dropped him. So I think you're going to see a lot of that from the guys who are actually going to be playing on Saturdays at those defensive end positions. You're going to see a lot of versatility there. So that was kind of my two main takeaways, just a couple personnel notes from those two guys.
Yeah, and I thought in general when we saw the threes go against each other, the offensive line got the better of the defensive line, especially on the interior. We saw Will Black make a couple nice blocks. I actually saw Devin Houston make a really nice reach block move in. I think it was I couldn't tell which one, but probably a freshman defensive tackle out of the hole. Owen Strebig was in there as well. Noticed him a little bit. A couple other depth chart notes. Kind of moving to the wide receiver room. We saw Elijah Burris was in there when they ran the threes against the threes, and then when they did routes on air. First group, obviously, Jaden Greathouse in the slot, Jordan Faison to the field, Malachi Fields to the boundary. Second group was Will Pauling in the slot, KK Smith to the field, and Micah Gilbert to the boundary. So as of now, that looks to be, again, can't stress enough as of now, because we've seen a lot of stuff change throughout the course of fall camp, and of course Notre Dame has a ton of depth, so these competitions are ongoing. But as of now, that looks to be the two deep at wide receiver.
I'm not surprised by that. I think Micah Gilbert is sort of finding himself again after that broken hand. It sucks to go through a whole spring session basically and not be able to catch passes as a wide receiver, but that was one thing. I was talking to a defensive back today, and I guess we'll transition there. We talked to DBs, DB coach Mike Mickens and Marty Biaggi, special teams coordinator, a couple specialists as well. Basically, when they're talking about these wide receivers, and Micah Gilbert came up, said he's got very strong hands. And that's what you want out of boundary receiver when you're that outside guy. If the ball's up in the air, you want to be able to make a play on that ball. I think Micah Gilbert's that guy. Malachi Fields is definitely that guy. Everyone, you can speak more to that because you're going to write a feature on Malachi Fields. Big, strong, like he's everything you want in a boundary wide receiver. So the DBs actually spoke very highly of these wideouts. I think it was Christian Gray who said there's just a lot there. There's the speed, there's the agility, there's the strength. So if you're on the train of, hey, maybe this wide receiver group is actually different, coming from the DBs, it sounds like it is. And then with the DBs themselves, we know what those guys are. And I was very impressed talking to some of the younger guys today because, look, we talked to Christian Gray, and just 2 years ago, he was that guy who's like, hey, how am I going to break into this thing? And he did. You're probably going to see that from Dallas Gold and Mark Zachary, some of these younger guys that Mike Mickens is able to coach. He's got a wealth of riches there. Yeah,
Dallas Gold's an impressive dude. Mark Zachary's an impressive dude. I did ask a couple of the DBs, I should say, Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, about Malachi Fields, and I think you're right. Christian Gray went out of his way to say like there's a lot in that wide receiver room that Notre Dame has to work with. But I got a chance to ask Mike Mickens about him as well. He said like, yeah, he's a big, strong, moves well for his size. That's the general sentiment about him. And then I stumbled over this question a little bit, but I asked Mike Mickens basically was watching film of him, when you watch film of him, were you like, this is the type of guy we need to bring in if he becomes available? And Mike Mickens said yes. So not a huge surprise, but I thought that was notable that Notre Dame game planned for Malachi Fields. When they did that, they thought this is the type of wide receiver we want to bring in. Of course, they did, and I think Notre Dame's offense is going to be a lot better for it.
And Christian Gray said when he lined up against Malachi Fields right over here, he said, oh my gosh, this guy is bigger than I thought on the scouting report.
He's listed at like 6'2" on the scouting report. He's much taller than 6'2".
Not 6'2". If he was standing in this same spot, his head would not be in this frame.
Now you're outing us as short, so that's
we are. We're not. We write about the football players. We are not the football players. I think everybody knows that. Speaking of writing about the football players, Jack, we missing anything, or should we just tell these guys to go to blueandgold.com to get everything that we might have missed in this video?
Quick punt returner note. We talked to Marty Biaggi, and I asked Dallas Golden about this a little bit as well. Like punt and kick returner, I should say. Biaggi said, Dallas Golden, I think, acknowledged that he's still learning. It's something he wants to do, of course, but he's kind of still learning the fundamentals of it. Marty Biaggi said, yeah, he's impressive back there, but he had a couple drops first couple days. I wouldn't expect him to factor into the punt returner mix right away. He mentioned Jordan Faison and Will Pauling, who are doing a good job at punt returner so far. Those were the first two guys. Then he also mentioned Aeneas Williams, Dallas Golden, Jaden Greathouse. At kick returner, Biaggi said Jadarian Price and Jeremiyah Love were the two main guys they've been running back there, which I found interesting.
There's a nugget.
And someone, it wasn't me, I forget who it was, asked Biaggi, like, was there some pushback from Marcus Freeman wanting to use Jeremiyah Love as a kickoff returner? Because, obviously Jeremiyah Love is way too valuable to risk an injury. And Marty Biaggi said no, like if we can scheme stuff up for him, we're going to use our most electric players out there. So I thought that was an interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I wouldn't want to risk an injury to number 4, but it's an interesting note.
To be completely honest, I'm not surprised. Marcus Freeman is an aggressive coach. I think he's a fourth-year coach, and maybe 3 years ago we were talking about him as a head spinning type of guy, just trying to figure out how to do this thing. I think he knows now, like, hey, if I can get a little bit of an edge somehow, and let me tell you, Jeremiyah Love returning kicks is probably an edge. And I've been saying it, if you really want this guy to end up in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, a little kick return touchdown or a little kick return pizzazz, like that spices up a resume. I keep saying it, we saw Reggie Bush do that. I think Jeremiyah Love's like a Reggie Bush type of player, so he's capable of that. We'll see if it actually happens, though. That's probably a good note to end on there. I think that's going to get people pretty excited, and we will see you guys again probably. I don't know if we're going to have a video coming out of Sunday's press conference.
I'll probably have some. I mean, maybe it's not this exact format, but we will talk to Marcus Freeman at noon Eastern time. That will be streamed on Notre Dame's YouTube channel, and we will, of course, have all the coverage. This was our last practice availability until next spring. So a lot of fun. We learned a good amount. There's still plenty we have to learn, including the starting quarterback. But we should find, knock on whatever
you out there.
Yeah, we should find out something about that within the next few days. It is still neck and neck.
So go to blueandgold.com for that, and then obviously keep it here on this YouTube channel throughout the season. Even though we're not going to see more practice, you're going to see a lot of our faces because there's a lot to talk about as this season finally gets going underway. So that's Jack Sobel. I'm Tyler Horka. We're with blueandgold.com, Blue and Gold Illustrated.